Hey guys. So I wanted to do a video on camera today. I feel like it's something a little different that I'm probably going to get into some more, but this video is about why relationships fail. And I'm going to try and make the information pretty straightforward. There's going to be some mistakes in this video, so just bear with me. I'm not going to have it edited. So why do relationships fail? Because we're spending so much of our time figuring out why or how to get a partner back or how to get a partner in the first place. But many of the people who are watching this video are afraid that when they get back into a relationship, it's like, great, cool, I have a relationship, or cool, I got my ex back, or whatever. But why do relationships fail in the first place? How can I avoid ever being put back in this spot? So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. And I've compiled a list that I'll draw from. So the first of which is that you have expectations. And maybe let's focus using this one as more of a why a relationship is difficult rather than will this make it fail. Expectations come from both sides of a relationship, right? So it's the idea that I expect my partner to do this thing with little to no evidence that they should do this thing. So now expectations is not like, oh, if I'm bleeding out, they're going to take me to the hospital. Like, yeah, of course, like a good partner should do that. And most partners should do that. Most people should do that. Rather, an expectation is you didn't do what I told myself you would do. And since you didn't meet the model of what I think you should have done, you're bad or you're at fault or you're to blame. And that's really the biggest creation of expectation. It's the biggest manifestation of expectation. That's a better word in relationships because we think that way a lot. And I'm not sure how often people kind of sit back and say, was that a fair expectation for me to put on them? And again, I'm not talking about the day to day stuff, right? My partner said they would cook tonight, so I'm developing the expectation that they're going to cook. I'm not talking about stuff like that. I'm talking about bigger things. Getting mad at our partner for things we didn't tell them we thought they would do. And then when they inevitably don't do the thing because we didn't communicate the thing, and then we get mad at them for not doing the thing, and they're sitting here like, what did I do? That. And we do that a lot. So I think it's important that we're mindful of that. The next on the list is we blame each other, right? I'll blame you for something, you'll blame me for something. Blame will really quickly kill a relationship because it breaks down the trust of a relationship. Blaming someone hurts both of your feelings, right? In many different ways. Now, let's be clear. If your partner cheated on you and you blame them for cheating on you, that is not what we're talking about. It's little things. It's gaslighting things. And for those unfamiliar with gaslighting, it's basically, let's say that someone got themselves some Starbucks, right? Or they got themselves dinner on their way home from work and they didn't think to get you any. Now you could that's probably a reasonable situation. Maybe they should have got you something. Maybe they could have been a little more thoughtful, but they didn't get you something. And when they get home, you say, "You always do this. You do this all the time. You never think about me." That's a prime example of gaslighting because there are probably millions of times you can call upon where they did think about you. But taking that and blowing it into something bigger, which makes the person question their sanity. Like, wait, am I the bad guy? Do I never think about them? Maybe I am the villain. That's a prime example of gaslighting, which is a form of blame. Um, Blaming hurts the mutual trust of the relationship. It's expected. Like it almost creates the expectation from number one. They're going to blame me for something, right? Why even bother? I'm just going to get blamed, right? And then that breaks down the trust of the relationship. Doesn't matter what I do, my partner will always find a way for it to be my fault, my problem. I'm the bad guy. And you can see how this gaslighting and this blame is sort of this weird scale of feeling bad in a relationship, which is something ultimately we don't want to do to our partner. A relationship is about mutual respect, understanding, sexual attraction, etc. And I think the biggest thing regarding number two, which is blame blinds us to when it's our fault, right? If I'm always able to deflect onto the other person, I never stop and think, okay, when am I the bad guy? Bad guy is not the right term to use, but you guys understand. When is it me? When is it my fault? When was I supposed to do the thing? When was I genuinely the problem? So I can sit back and and introduce a bit of self-awareness into the situation. Sorry, I suck at being on camera. I'm not used to it for videos. Um, yeah, it allows that self-awareness for me to go, you know what? I was bad in that situation. And let me put myself in my partner's shoes and think about how what I did impacted them negatively. That way, I can bring some more self awareness to it and grow on it and do better next time, right? So that that problem just disappears. And I don't need to worry about that in my romantic relationships. Number three is a big one. We dissociate from our emotions. Dissociating, think of it like getting away. We get away from our emotions, maybe because we're scared of them, maybe because they're too powerful. A common thing that happens through dissociation is objectification, which I see a fucking lot in my coaching, guys. And objectification basically means I turn that person into an object. That's not a real person. They don't have emotions, they don't have feelings, right? Or maybe a healthier way to think about this is instead of 0 to 100, like, okay, they totally are a person, or no, they're not a person at all. Think of it more as a dial, right? You don't want to go out of your way to hurt your partner, but it is easier to ignore what you're doing might hurt them if you don't fully think of them as a person. And this one sounds pretty dark. I don't want you guys to think too much about this because we don't necessarily realize we're doing this, right? It's a distancing tactic. And remember, dissociation is not something we're always totally aware of. If you objectify someone, you only see them as a specific person, or purpose rather. You only, that person's for sex, that person's for fun, that person's for this or that. And if they don't fit the mold of that, I back away from them, right? That's expectation again. Another common example of dissociating from our own emotions is manipulating others and playing games. And this helps us withhold our true feelings, our true identity, the things that wound us. If we can just play games and keep people at arm's length with these games and keep them frustrated with us, then they never get a sense of who we are and what really hurts us. This is a common tactic of people who gaslight. A common tactic of narcissism is they play games, and that reduces the risk of them being laid bare, right? Having sort of those, the emotional scars out there. So we dissociate from our emotions. And I think that's a big one. And if you think that that's something that you do, definitely talk to a therapist about it. Though I am not a therapist, you can work with me. My website is thelovechat.net/coaching. But really, this is something a therapist should be working with if you are able to get a therapist. I've also partnered with betterhelp.com/Rory. I do get a commission from them, but that is professional therapy available to you online. Number 4 is shitty communication. So this one's obvious, but I'll try and go into it. Shitty communication can mean a lot of things. It can mean that we don't say anything at all. If our partner does something that bugs us and we just keep our mouth closed, or if we skew what we mean, we sugarcoat and light heart what we mean, if we don't say what we mean at all, or we lie about what we mean. And this happens for a bunch of reasons, one of which is trust. My personal belief is that communication and trust are sort of hand in hand. So we don't say what we mean because we don't believe we'll get it. Or we don't say what we mean because we don't trust that our partner will take us seriously. Or we were discouraged as children from saying what we need, or pushed off, or kind of ignored, like be quiet. Or the big one that I tend to see a lot of the time, particularly with women, not always, but this is just what I tend to see, an observation, is we don't want to rock the boat, right? We don't want to tell them what we need because we're afraid that it will not only not happen, but there will be a consequence for saying what we need or showing any sort of autonomy in a relationship. So that's definitely something to think about. And the big one here, number 5, the big one, is we don't realize that sometimes their behavior is a result of our behavior. This isn't an excuse or a blame game per se, but I think it's really, really important to remember that sometimes they act a way they do as a result of our own actions first. There's only so many times you can poke a bear before you get bit by it. And I think that this is a prime example of that. So be mindful of your own behavior. And before you point a finger at someone and try and blame them, ask yourselves, in fairness, okay, what was I just doing that caused this? Did I do something that caused this? And I don't want you guys to sit yourselves in a situation where you're thinking, okay, I did this, So it's my fault that they did that. That's not necessarily what I'm saying. What I'm saying is be wary of context, right? If someone comes home after getting yelled at from their boss and a taxi cab drives past them and splashes water onto them and then a bird shits on them, they're probably not in a good emotional place right now, right? That's context. If I came home and I'm being really nasty and shitty to my partner, and as I can't speak, as a result, they snap at me, right? Their behavior caused my behavior, or vice versa. My behavior caused their behavior. And I think that's important to remember. So I think patience should be injected into that situation. If you're angry or they're angry, take 5. If you realize you said something nasty, apologize and then ask them what you can do for them, even if it's just giving them some time. So I hope these were helpful. Once again, my website is thelovechat.net/coaching if you want to work with me. And tell me what you guys thought of this new format. I'm not going to edit this one, so it'll be a little messy. But as I work more on the camera, I think I'll get better and better at it. But you guys let me know what you think. Fuck.